Last week I stepped on a frog during my walk, and this morning I stepped on a snail. Now, to many of you that may seem like nothing, but it really bothered me. Poor little guy. You look down, you see this little thing, and here, let me show you the perspective. It's one thing for me to say I stepped on a snail, but then you kind of zoom in and you see the life, um, and it kind of I don't know, invigorates your compassion because you see that it's a thing, a living thing. Um, it kindles our compassion when we take the time to notice. And will I discontinue the path I'm walking on every day? No, it's a good path. I'm gonna keep walking it. Um, but I do take care to, I know certain times that, I know when the frogs come out, and I know when the snails are making their way across the path, and I try to avoid them where I can. But what do we do when we cross paths, come to cross purposes with other people? If we believe they're in the wrong, first, do we even acknowledge that they exist, or do we just keep crunching along on our own way? Do we acknowledge they exist and that what we say and do affects other people at all? Um, in acknowledging that they exist, does that cost heighten our concern that that we're in the right? Maybe they're in the right and their cross paths, their purpose. Or does it at least give us caution, that we should at least be sure or more sure? Um, does it temper us in our interaction, that we could have these kind of effects, crushing effects on others? And once we know others and other perspectives, that we've acknowledged that they exist with concern and caution, do we once we know that they exist, and that their perspectives exist, do we ignore and crush those perspectives as still nothing? Do we take the time to see the people and zoom in on them, to think more about the person, that life that we're disagreeing with? And do we take the time to look more into their perspective to see, why are they going that way? And maybe it's, because maybe it's us that's veering off a little bit. Maybe both of us are wrong. I've been reading in Job, and we see throughout most of that book how his friends came to support him with their words and being there to encourage him with their presence, but really everything that came out of their mouth was crushing to him, and they weren't good comforters. They weren't the friends that they should have been. It's like makes me think of in our current, whether it's political discourse or theological disagreements or really anything. It's like I'm holding a knot of like a ball of yarn all knotted up. So just imagine this big thing, and I'm sitting here with it, and someone looks over and just says, "Just untangle it." And I'm like, "Untangle it? Like, you mean?" Okay, well that's really gotten me nowhere, and they just get upset with me for not untangling it. They're just telling me to untangle it. Well, that's all well and good. I want to untangle it too, but you're not really telling me how. You're just telling me to do it, and you're upset because I'm not getting it done. There's, or maybe we use these slogans and memes and phrases, thinking that we're uh, to get to champion our cause, our purpose, when really we're maybe holding up one single tangle, when it's always more involved than that. It's usually more complex. It's this whole ball, and or I think of that youth game that we sometimes do in youth group, where we have one person up there making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But, it's a simple act, something we do all the time. And the audience has to give them instructions on how to make it. But the person does exactly, just literally, what they hear the people say. And it becomes way more difficult than you'd think. So to just say, look, untangle it. Look, that's wrong. Do it right. You're wrong about that. It's usually more involved, is all I'm saying, than just simply, some slogan or quick phrase that we repeat. But all this is just to get us to the point. Like we see that there's a wrong way, there's a crushing way that ignores the person and the other perspective, and really takes the time to unravel it and deal with it. And then I look in Proverbs 27, 5-6. It says, "Better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy." Right? We don't want to be crushing, but we don't want to ignore. Right? The Bible tells us God disciplines those He loves, and though we're not God and we don't have that authority, but if He disciplines those He loves, what's our role as we love one another too? I mean, I'm thankful for my brothers and sisters and friends that have confronted me sometimes in difficult situations with something that I was doing wrong. And we need that. Love overlooks the minor offenses, like things that can be overlooked, but love rebukes openly. I mean, if I'm just holding in and being quiet about looking at someone taking a wrong path and just not saying anything, like if I'm in a conversation with you and I tell you, yeah, I'm going to the store, but I'm terrible with directions, and then I go off on my merry way, and you see me going the complete opposite direction, and you never say anything, it, and you just don't say anything. Later on, calling you on the phone, I'm like, it took me 3 hours to get there. Why didn't you say something? You knew. I mean, what would you say? What would you say? Well, that path was true for you in the moment. Like, no, I mean, love rebukes openly. It doesn't conceal it when it's for the good of the other person, and it's something that's good and necessary. Deceitful are the kisses of the enemy, that just say, with an outward celebration, inwardly convinced they're wrong, but they wish them well on their way. Good luck. All right. We can't be wishing one another well on our way off a cliff. We have to have love and care for one another enough to be involved in each other's lives, to acknowledge with concern and caution, see people, see their perspectives, overlook what's minor, love enough to intervene, to come alongside. Don't celebrate and ignore someone on an errant path. Of course, not casting pearls before swine, or throwing out wisdoms to someone that's just going to trample the words under their feet and use them to tear us to pieces, to argue with us, and using wisdom. But yeah, I mean, I just was thinking this morning about the caution and care for the people that we come across in a time when discourse seems difficult. So I encourage you to be active in sharing your faith in this way, being involved in each other's lives, loving truth, loving one another, and I will catch you on the next video.